What are AI agents? It's a question I get asked almost daily, and not just by students or my friends. I get asked this question by computer scientists and by tech executives. Agentic AI is one of the hottest topics going, but if pinning down exactly what we're talking about feels a bit like a moving target, it's not your imagination. What agents are capable of doing is changing almost as quickly as what people want to do with them. But you can think about the tech this way. AI agents are essentially autonomous software, and they're easy to confuse with chatbots. But a chatbot is not going to go do something on your behalf. That's what agents are for. So just having an intelligent AI model that breaks down a task into a series of steps is not good enough. The key ingredient here is using that intelligence to take action, actually do something useful, and do it on its own.
It's intelligence plus actions. Now these models are getting really good at tool calling. In fact, that means they can actually use web browsers, or in many cases, they can even write its own code if that's what is necessary, and execute them to go accomplish it.
I caught up with Amazon cloud computing pioneer Swami Sivasubramanian last week at TED AI in Vienna, Austria. These days, he leads Agentic AI for AWS.
Now people are not limited to actually breaking down a problem and then creating a software project and then starting to actually work through and assigning different tasks. Now these systems can automatically generate these plans and break it down step by step, and for each step which tool to call, which API to make, and write code dynamically. And that's what makes AI agents very powerful and one of the best technology shifts in our time.
I'm Jennifer Strong, and this is Shift.
Now here on the steering column is a device called Auto Cruise. You simply set the speed you want.
Self-driving robo-taxis are already on the road in US cities.
As the disk rotates, a mirror reflects the light in the way that depends on how the signal was recorded.
This is the 100 terabyte empty. I present to you Electro, the Moto Man. Ladies and gentlemen.
I would say that one of my greatest skills is my ability to interact with humans.
This episode, it's the latest installment in our oral history project. Miro helps teams accelerate through the full innovation cycle, getting from idea to outcome faster. Miro's Innovation Workspace is an intelligent platform that brings people and AI together in a shared space. It's more than just putting a bunch of ideas on a board. And you can quickly build on your ideas without needing the perfect prompt. The work you're already doing on Miro's canvas is the prompt. Help your teams get great done with Miro. Check out Miro.com to find out how. That's MIRO.com.
From Zuckerman Spader. For 5 decades, Zuckerman Spader has been a leading litigation firm trusted by in-house and outside counsel, businesses, and individuals. With offices in Washington, Baltimore, New York, and Tampa, Zuckerman Spader serves clients throughout the country and around the world in high-stakes disputes, enforcement matters, investigations, and at trial. When the lawyer you choose matters most. Online at Zuckerman.com.
My name is Swami Sivasubramanian. I'm the VP of Agentic AI in AWS, and I've been with AWS and Amazon now for 19 years. I come from southern part of India, outskirts of Chennai, and I was part of the first generation of family who went to college, and I didn't grow up with a computer in my house. And my school, middle school and high school, had one computer that we could share for the entire school. So at most I got like 10 to 20 minutes of access to computers a week. So that means every second in front of that computer was like really precious for me. But I got fascinated with this notion of actually optimizing this time. So I used to write down these programs in my notebook and being able to actually be really ready and make that second count in a big way. And this is how I started. And then eventually I went on to do my bachelor's in one of the top schools in India at College of Engineering, Guindy, and then eventually I got a PhD in Fry University. That's where I met Warner, who's the CTO of Amazon, and he recruited me to Amazon to join as an intern. And my internship project was to build a database called Dynamo, which is one of the core database products now that power AWS. And then I joined back Amazon full-time and started working on all things related to databases and then analytics and so forth. Somewhere along the way, I think as I was taking a break and I was in India for actually when my daughter turned 1 and I was introducing her to the rest of the family, I had a lot of free time. I got really into deep learning when it was starting to take flight, so to speak. Then I got to realize the potential of deep learning as I was building these models and building deep learning powered apps. So when I came back, I started AI for AWS. And that was led to the creation of all these tools like SageMaker or machine learning service to Bedrock to many other things. Now, increasingly, what I do is I spend all my time actually thinking about AI agents and agentic AI. And it's because agentic AI represents the next evolution of AI, where unlike all of us know what generative AI is. And when you think about generative AI and these chatbots, you give it a prompt, a question, and then you get back a response in the form of text or image or video or whatnot. But what makes agentic AI different is that it actually has the ability to reason, plan, and generate the set of steps based on user-defined goals. That means now if you are actually, imagine you are a researcher from a company or whatnot, and you want to actually run some experiments to find a new protein. Now you can actually give all the documents and the parameters and then say, give it an objective saying like what are the set of experiments it needs to run, and then it starts querying the knowledge base and then does the relevant research and starts figuring out which set of things it needs to run, but it also writes code on your behalf and executes and call those tools to iterate and constantly optimize as well. That's like the level of what agentic AI could do. So when I saw this power, I said, I gotta actually spend 120% of my time on agentic AI. And that's what I'm doing nowadays. When people started building AI agents, even a year or two ago, the models did not have like reasoning capabilities. So the way people started building agents were they were building basically very crisply defined workflows. And for each step in the workflow, they said, now let me use an LLM or an AI model to start actually executing pieces of that workflow. But still the underlying way they built an agent is the same way they built software workflows and so forth. They still were very useful, but they were not actually as drastically remarkable as what we are starting to see now. So what changed? Now these models are starting to develop the ability to think, and they are starting the ability to actually reason. So that means now no longer do you need to start building these static workflows that are Gen AI powered. In fact, one of the biggest examples internally we saw was when we built something called Amazon Q. And we have a QCLI, which is a very powerful agent internally. We built it using first the traditional workflow-driven agents. And last year, what we found as we started seeing these reasoning models come out of our own systems or with Claude and others, we said we had to rewrite the underlying frameworks, and we built something called Strands Agent. It's an open source framework where it actually is purely using the intelligence of the model to dynamically generate the code. In fact, now with Q, what we found out is we were able to delete like half of the code that was powering Q, and we still got an even more remarkable agent. In fact, one of the examples that is even more stunning was one of the engineers in Amazon. He came and told me like, hey, I was actually building a system to migrate a very mundane, boring job that he had to deal with, to migrate all the tickets backlog from one version of software to another. Typically, this requires 1 to 2 engineers to do this over a period of 3-4 days or whatnot. Instead, what he did was wrote it down these steps that he had to do manually and gave it to the QCLI system. Started executing this one by one and was processing for 10,000 or 100,000 tickets. But then somewhere along the way, the agent realized I'm doing this over and over again. So let me just write a quick piece of code, a little Python script, and then it started actually speeding up the work. So he said, QCLI finished it even before my meeting got over. So that is the power of now. What you are getting is that you no longer have to build every step of the workflow, because the models are getting intelligent enough, let alone now because they are good at actually calling tools or even writing its own tools, you are seeing the next level of breakthrough with Agentic AI.
Ready to turn your good ideas into great results? Miro's Innovation Workspace is a faster way to get there. It helps teams accelerate through the full innovation cycle, getting from idea to outcome faster. Miro's Innovation Workspace is an intelligent platform that brings people and AI together in a shared space. These days, I'm hosting 2 shows and curating the storytelling for several live events. My team can use Miro for road mapping. That is, outlining a product plan over time in a visual way, with key features, milestones, and release schedules. We can also use it to work on new concepts. Miro has been empowering teams to transform bold ideas into the next big thing for more than a decade. Now, they're at the forefront of bringing products to market even faster by unleashing the combined power of AI and human potential. Here's how. Teams can work with Miro to turn unstructured data, like sticky notes or screenshots, into usable diagrams, product briefs, and data tables in just minutes. It's more than putting a bunch of ideas on a board. And if you're like me and worn out by having to master ever more tools in your software toolbox, this is much easier than that. Because you can quickly build on your ideas without needing the perfect question. The work you're already doing on Miro's canvas is the prompt. Help your teams get great done with Miro. Check out Miro.com to find out how. That's MIRO.com.
This show is supported by Odoo. When you buy business software from lots of vendors, the costs add up and it gets complicated and confusing. Odoo solves this. It's a single company that sells a suite of enterprise apps that handles everything from accounting to inventory to sales. Odoo is all connected on a single platform in a simple and affordable way. You can save money without missing out on the features you need. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
When you think about agents, I put them in like 2 different categories. One is around like agents that are acting on behalf of humans. And then the other category is agents that are doing like scheduled workflows. Kind of example of what typically happens on the second category is related to how people actually do like scheduled jobs. In Unix, it used to be called cron jobs. So on the first category, for agents to do everything that they need to do, it needs to integrate with existing identity systems that exist. For instance, if an agent in a business setting is going to act on behalf of me, it needs to integrate with our own Amazon's identity system and so forth. But if it is going to actually do something and take action on its own, kind of like what Amazon has built with, say, Amazon Q to upgrade our Java software, it needs to have its own identity so that we know that which action did Q take, how many packages it upgraded, and so forth. Both these are important things for agents to have, but these are really hard problems, and that's one of the examples why we created something something called Agent Core, our core agent platform that enables developers to build these agents with the best-in-class runtime, best-in-class identity, and being able to govern them and give them personalized memory and all these things so that people spend less time worrying about building the undifferentiated heavy lifting associated with agent building, but they just focus on building the core agent itself. People confuse, as you rightfully pointed out, what is an AI agent and what is a chatbot. Let's take the simple researcher example that I talked about, researcher in a biotech lab. When they ask a chatbot saying like, hey, give me ideas for a new protein experiment I need to run, most chatbots even that exist today, it's going to actually come back with an answer saying something like, oh, here are the 6 things you can do. Even though it has no knowledge on what tools exist and various things, because it'll come up with an answer. That's not an agent, that is a chatbot. Whereas a real agent will look into the knowledge base and go research what is the latest and greatest research in the internet and what tools does it have, and then go run some computer simulation by writing its own code and then learning and so forth. So knowing this difference is important. But the second one is, and I see this a lot when I talk to also many CEOs and CIOs and whatnot, is that they see a lot of agent prototypes and demos all the time. But then one of their common frustrations is that, and I ask them saying like, when can I have it in production? They are like, oh, now hold on. For this to be like really production ready, I had to spend time actually making sure it has all the right identities, as you call that. And then it needs to be personalizable. It should know, for instance, the agent should know what I told it 5 minutes ago, but also over the past 5 months. And it needs to actually work with all my backend tools, and it should have ability to spin up a web browser, web search. And then it needs to have secure runtime. And it needs to have the ability to monitor, did it do its job or not? All these are what AWS solved for traditional applications 18 years ago with our cloud services. So as we were building agents internally itself, we said we need the equivalent of cloud for agent, and that's what we created with Agent Core as well. People are able to move from POC to production. What used to take like months now is starting to get decreased in a matter of weeks, and we hope to move even faster. All of us have heard the term vibe coding. But when you think about vibe coding as an example, it is great where you give it a vibe or a prompt, and then it generates a piece of code. But that's at the end of the day not enough, because what software developers are doing is they actually unpack a business problem. And then they say, hey, here is what I'm trying to do. It can be like, in this code base, I'm trying to add a new API and do X, Y, and Z. So with Kiro, we actually pioneered something in the industry called spec-driven development. And that means you use AI agent to actually narrow down the specification and then generate architectural design and then generate code and then generate tests and generate documentation. So now internally we are starting to see the developers' productivity is increasing by 2x and in some cases even like 5x. So now we are starting to unpack what are the other major areas where we should be moving faster with AI agents. And we're doing the same with actually business users as well. Now we are giving them the ability to run analytics without having to deal with data processing and dashboard building. And you're doing the same with actually business users being able to have like ChatGPT style functionality on top of the data sitting in, let's say, Google Docs or enterprise systems or various other SaaS applications as well. So each of these areas we are constantly reinventing. When you look back at the history of any software, any system we are building, it is never a straight line. So we are constantly learning and we are constantly adapting. But one of the big things I have actually found is that as these models are starting to see incredible power in reasoning and intelligence, now the arc of what's possible is changing so rapidly. So we are reinventing tools, and we are reinventing even how teams are formed now. So what used to take a team of 20 to 30 people to build certain systems over 6 to 12 months, now we are able to do it in like a matter of a 2-pizza team or 2 to 3 months. For instance, the Kiro team was a handful of people who used Kiro to build Kiro, which sounds like the movie Inception, but I think you get the idea. So in the same way, Strands actually is a great example. It was just passionate 2-3 people using AI agents to create these tools. Now internally we have amazing tools for business users to be able to do things like analytics and research as well. And what I'm genuinely excited about is our ability to innovate is increasing so much. That means now we are constrained by what do we think we can actually clearly articulate in terms of specifications and how we steer these AI agents. And that is a skill that we all as humans need to also master for the future.
This episode was produced by me and Emma Cillekens and mixed by Garret Lang, with original music from him and Jacob Gorski. Thanks for listening. I'm Jennifer Strong.